I would like to continue looking at how we can update a compute node. And the interesting thing here is that we can actually achieve a zero downtime for running workloads while the update is applied. This means OpenStack is ready to run any workload. We don't have to specifically program for an environment where instances are just terminated, but we can really ensure that instances continue to run even though the underlying infrastructure is addressed. The hypervisors can be evacuated. This means any running workload is transferred to another hypervisor while the workload is running, and this allows us to prepare it for the actual update. Then we perform the update, and this is really just following the actual instructions on the updates, probably installing new RPM packages, might need to, some configuration adaptation, and then the hypervisor is put back into service. So even though the use case is named update compute node, what we do want to show is how to prepare for an update, since the actual update is very specific to a certain update, how to do it. And we don't want to change our demo environment, because then we could hold the demo only once. So preparing for an update is what we're seeing now, and this is something that takes place on the command line because it's a very specific administration function. So I'm logging, well, actually I already prepared a shell, so I'm logging into one of those controller nodes that we have. Just a second. Oh, the session died. So let me just log out here and log into one of the compute nodes, controller nodes. Oops. Okay, here we go. I'm logged into one of those compute nodes now, and the first thing I need to do is I need to allow the user to access the OpenStack environment. This is done by setting some of those environment variables. The installer creates that as a shell script. So there's a Keystone RC admin shell script that sets username, tenant name, password, and the authentication URL, and I simply source that. And I'm now logged in and can perform administrative functions. So the first thing I do want to do is I want to see what services are available. Nova manage is the command to get a service list. And I can see there's a number of services, and the interesting pieces are the two hypervisors that are there. Those two hypervisors, the 8BC and BE4, are the same ones as you can see in the hypervisors overview in the OpenStack Horizon dashboard. So those are those two hypervisors. So this one has 5 instances running. This one has 1 instance running. We can also get that same information from the command line. So I can do a Nova list all tenants to see what virtual machines are running on which hypervisor, and if I want to specify a specific host, I could do that by supplying a host name. So let's look at what instances are running on the first host, and let's look at what instances are running on the second one. And you can see the interesting one to me at the moment is this one, because it hosts CFME 233, and that was the last virtual machine that we requested that happens to be the Windows virtual machine. So let's look at, can we actually live migrate a running Windows instance? So what I want to do is I want to shut or I want to disable the Nova compute service on that specific host that runs the Windows instance, because that will prevent scheduling of additional instances on that host. So the first thing I'm going to do is Nova manage service disable, and then I need to specify which service. That's Nova compute, and I need to specify which host, and that is this one over here. And as you can see, the service is now disabled. If I do a Nova manage service list, you can also see in the overview that this hypervisor Nova compute is now disabled, so it does not accept any new virtual machines. However, the virtual machines are still running. So the next thing I'm doing is I want to use that list of instances that I've had here before and get all the different UUIDs of those instances. And those UUIDs, pretty much this is just standard oops, sorry. I have misaligned my fingers with my keyboard. Our standard shell scripting things. So I could, for example, grep for act, and then I would only get the active instances. I even got the wrong one here. 8BC is the right one. It's a good thing I checked. I would want to do it on 8BC, not BE4. 8BC. So here I have the list of all the active and running virtual machines, and then I just simply cut -C 3 to 38, and I have the list of UUIDs here. And I could now put that in a for loop. For instance in, put that in backticks. Oops. Do, and the command that we actually want to run on each instance is Nova live migration, and then the UUID of the instance. So when I run that, for each instance it triggers the live migration command. And we can see now 8BC, that is the right one, I hope. Those are now in the state migrating from one host to the other while the instance is still running. So as soon as they've migrated, I can see they're getting fewer now. Some of them have already migrated. Let's wait until CFME 233 is also migrated. We can look into the OpenStack Horizon dashboard and to verify that it's still running. So let's go there first to see it currently running. Look in the cloud demo project to see that the instance, the Windows Cloud instance, Cloud Image instance is actually running. I can access the console and oh, there's my WRICHTR user. I hope I remember the password correctly. I can log in, the instance is still running, while at the same time migration takes place and is being migrated over from one hypervisor to the other. So it's already been migrated while it continued to run. So I think this is a very nice feature and shows that OpenStack can be used to run any workload, no matter if it was designed as a cloud workload or not. Okay. Now assuming that the upgrade had taken place, we could now upgrade that compute node. All we need to do is, if you remember, we've disabled. So if we say Nova Managed Service List, you can still see that Nova Compute is disabled. I now want to enable it again. So I say Nova Manage Service Enable. This host is this one. And the service is Nova Compute. Now that's enabled, again, it will take on new virtual machines, new OpenStack instances, and it's really a matter of how dynamic the OpenStack environment actually is, if it's necessary to live migrate new instances back to it, or if there's so much dynamicity in the OpenStack environment that new virtual machines will just be launched on that hypervisor and the load will level out itself anyway. Okay, that was upgrading the compute nodes. Let's look at the next use case.